Ahoy hoy fellow bookworms, my name is Caroline and I like to read books, so let's talk about them. Today's video is going to be my January wrap up and it's coming to you guys a little bit late because chronic migraines, but better late than never. I'm actually going to start things off by just quickly mentioning the only book that I read in December, and it was Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, which is the third book in the Stormlight Archive series, and this was really fucking good. I love this series, so I kind of knew that I was going to love this one, but I didn't expect to love like all 1,200 pages of it, but I had a really good time reading this. I also listened to a lot of the audiobook and that was really great as well because the narrators were just like really creative with their voices and it made it so like fun and atmospheric, and it was just really great to listen to. One of the really enjoyable things about this book for me was that there's a lot of flashbacks in the story surrounding one particular character, and I really loved reading those and getting a better understanding of like why it's so significant that this particular character has transformed so much and is the man that he is in like present day book and stuff like that. That was really enjoyable for me. I have heard other people complain that there was too many flashbacks, but I really fucking loved them. I did have some small complaints about the book, like I wasn't completely happy with Shallan's arc because I found it really repetitive a lot of the time, that she was having like this identity crisis that went for ages, but overall I really liked this book. It's not my favourite in this series, but I really enjoyed it. On to the books that I read in January now, and the first one that I picked up was The Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo, and originally when I finished this I gave it like 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, but now that I think about it, I'm realizing that it's more of like a 3 out of 5 stars because I liked it, but it was really nothing particularly special. I think there was only about 2 stories in here that I like really loved. There was one in here that I absolutely hated, and the rest were just okay. The really great thing about this was the illustrations, which like grow with every page, and I just think are absolutely stunning. And I did enjoy that the fairy tales were like quite dark and gritty. That was really fun, but I only remember the 2 that I really enjoyed. One was Little Knife and the other was Ayama and the Wolf, and that's kind of it about this book for me, so it was good, but it wasn't amazing. After that I picked up The Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch, which is the 3rd book in the Gentleman Bastard series, and I ended up giving this about a 4 out of 5 stars, which is a really good rating, but compared to the first 2 books in the Locke Lamora series, which I gave like 5 out of 5 stars and absolutely fucking adored, this one was actually a little bit of a letdown. I did still really enjoy it, like there's nothing particularly bad about it. I love the characters and I really enjoyed the new characters who were introduced. I thought they were so fucking cool, but it just wasn't as good. This one takes kind of a more political path, and I do really enjoy politicking, but I think what was really not my thing about this book was that it just didn't have the same stakes as the first 2. Like the first 2 are fucking crazy, and the whole time in those 2 I was scared that my favourite characters were going to die. It was like so high intensity and crazy the whole time, and then this one it's like I kind of felt like they were safe the whole time. Without that intensity I just didn't feel as excited. I loved some of the banter. There was a little bit of romance in there, which was great, and like it was nice and really reflective at times, and it was good. But it just wasn't as good as the other 2, and that's why I had to take that star off. Next up I read volume 1 of A Silent Voice by Yoshitoki Oima. This is a manga about a deaf girl who is bullied so badly that she has to leave the school by this little shit of a boy over here. I enjoyed it because it made me feel something, and I want to continue the series because I know further in the series they're like reunited in the future and he's trying to like make up for what he did to her in the past and stuff like that. And I'm interested to read that, but also I didn't like it because it was like such horrible bullying. Like this is a hard one to rate because I enjoyed reading it because I wanted to keep reading it, but also I didn't enjoy reading it because it was about bullying and I felt really horrible for what was happening. So it's just like, I don't know, this is a terrible little bit of my wrap up. I don't know. After that I read The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington, and I liked this a whole lot. It's an interesting mix of things that's really fun. It's kind of like your typical like Brandon Sanderson type fantasy, but with like what I imagine Wheel of Time to be like mixed in. There's just lots to love about this book. I really enjoyed the characters. I think they were probably the real strength of this book for me. There's some really interesting stuff that happens with them, and they all go on really like unique and interesting journeys, and everything else about this book is really cool. I do still have some small complaints to make, and I think it might be because I listened to the audiobook, which by the way is narrated by Michael Kramer, and he's just a fucking excellent narrator. So if you like audiobooks. Anyway, I don't know if this is just me, but when I listen to audiobooks, I always pick up on like repetition and poor sentence structure and stuff like that so much more, because it's like, you have to listen to it. And sometimes when you're reading stuff, you can skim over it, but when you have to listen to it, your brain is like, that sounds wrong. And with this, there was a lot of repetition where like characters would say the same phrased things over and over, and there was a lot of things that were kind of spoon-fed to you as a reader. Like it would say that a character gave a terse nod to acknowledge what was said, and I'm like, well yeah, a terse nod acknowledges something. You can't just say someone gave a terse nod. It's the same thing. Or it would say like someone was biting their nails, a nervous habit they had. And it's like, you can't just say they bite their nails nervously. No one bites their nails for pleasure. It's just like this over explanation that happened really frequently, and I found so fucking annoying. But that could just be me. Could just be that I noticed it, so it's only a small thing. Still gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. The final book that I read in January was Unearthed by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner, which I have a signed copy of because I went to the launch here in Sydney, which was super fun. I was really looking forward to reading this book because it's Indiana Jones in space, and that just sounds like the coolest fucking thing ever. But I was a little bit let down. I was absolutely loving this for probably the first third of the book, because it was like Indiana Jones in space. It was like two people thrown together and they're bickering, and it's high intensity and there's puzzles, and it's like, it was so much fun. But after that, it just kind of like hit a rut for me, and I was always kind of waiting for them to get to the next puzzle in like the temple thing they were in, and then they would like camp for the night and talk, and I just didn't care as much. I was a little bit interested, but it was like, I didn't care as much when they started to like each other and there was a little bit of romance blossoming. I was kind of like, yeah, it's okay, but then they would get to the puzzle and I would be like, oh yeah, we're back in it. It was just kind of disappointing that I didn't care a huge amount about the characters, and I was really only in it for the action stuff, but I still gave this about a 3 out of 5 stars. That brings us to the end of my January wrap up though, guys. Be sure to let me know down in the comments what you read last month. I upload videos Wednesdays, Saturdays, and sometimes Mondays as well, so be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in my next video. Toodaloo.